Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jayson Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by Prizepicks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for checking in with this episode of the Big Three NBA podcast. The usual crew is here. Kwani Lunis, Sherrod Blakely, Gary Washburn. How are you all doing today?
Wonderful.
Gary,
could not be better in life than today.
Maybe I didn't need to ask you that. Gary, how you doing? I guess you're not going to say you're doing poorly.
Yeah, not as good as Mr. Rogers there, but
we got jokes from the sideline.
Won't you be my neighbor? Anyway, yeah, I'm doing well. Home from the road and chilling, and it's a little chilly out here. It's not like California, but all good. Everything's good.
What I want to know, Gary, is did you bring us any food back from your mama place?
Now you know he did not. At this point,
that ain't right.
Probably not good anymore.
Hail to the gnaw. Hail to the
gnaw. He easily broke us off something, put it in the freezer, brought it back home when he came back through. We could have ate good too, but nah, Gary, he's selfish like that, man. That's. I would have thought about bringing you some food back from my mom's place.
You would have
thought about the key word. Thought about.
I'm just saying. You didn't even think about us, but that's all right.
For the record, Sherrod is cheesing from ear to ear because the Eagles are going to be facing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and he is an Eagles fan apparently.
And that's my favorite player in the backdrop, Brian Dawkins. And in case y'all was wondering, there's more Eagles paraphernalia behind me, just so y'all get a quick look. I ain't gonna peek this all in the camera, but the boom, boom, boom. Just so y'all know, that's how we roll. That's how we roll in it.
I hate to see it. I really do.
But here's the thing, Kwani. We have a lot of auxiliary Eagles fans because they hate the Chiefs. They want to see the Chiefs go down. So I can't tell you how many times I've heard in the last 48 hours, I don't really like the Eagles, but I'm rooting for y'all to beat Kansas City. I've heard that a lot. If I got $1 for every time I've heard that, I could probably be the next owner of the Boston Celtics. I might be able to meet that. I might be able to cut that check for Wick & Company and buy the team.
Well, I'm an NFC East girly myself, so I can't root for anybody. I'm just not rooting for you ever. And I don't know. I mean, you know what? I'm rooting for the quarterbacks to have a good game.
Wow. Is she going to go there, Gary?
All right, let's talk about the Celtics. I don't know how many people that listen actually like football. It's okay if you don't. We'll talk about the Celtics, unfortunately. Don't know how stoked you will be to talk about them as well, but they lose at home at the buzzer to Houston. Tatum, unfortunately, scoreless in the first half. No Derek White, though. No Al Horford. What is your takeaway from that game? Let's just start with that.
They're getting the best shot that every team has to offer. And the Celtics, I think they've been inconsistent in their ability to absorb that. I think they've had some games where they've risen to the occasion and handled their business. In other games, they just kind of just show up and just play a pretty normal, typical game and find themselves struggling to, put teams away. I thought this was a game, though, that really highlighted the value of a Derek White. Because when you look at some of the guys that were absolutely torching them, it's hard to imagine those guys would have torched him if Derek White were in the lineup. And I'm thinking specifically about the villain himself, Dillon Brooks, who had the best game of his life shooting the three ball. And I think about the athleticism of Amin Thompson, who, for really one of the few times I've seen since Jaylen Brown has been in the NBA, Jaylen looked like an average from an athleticism standpoint player against Amin Thompson. He's that ridiculously athletic. And so those two guys specifically were able to give Boston major problems. And again, I think part of that is just not having the full complement of players. And I think that really, as we get closer and closer to the playoffs, I think it's becoming more apparent that for this team to repeat as champions, they're going to need all hands on deck. I don't think they're going to be able to get by like they were a year ago, where you were missing a key piece like Kristaps Porzingis, for example, for long stretches. But the one thing that I thought was interesting after the game was just how there seemed to be a lot of blame to go around for this loss, and there seemed to be certain people taking a little bit more of it on themselves than others. But there's definitely no question about it that this team is in a rut of sorts right now. And there's not necessarily finger pointing among themselves, but for those of us who are watching them play, we're trying to figure out not so much who's to blame for this, but who is going to help get them out of this rut. because to me, those two things are basically tied, at hand in hand. So I'm curious what Gary's thoughts are on this, though.
Well, I thought it would be a tough game because it was the first game coming off the road trip. Houston is obviously a hot team. They beat Cleveland twice in a few days. They're ever since the Celtics stumped them in Houston, they played really good ball and they were completely healthy. So I thought it would be a difficult game. But, when you're the Celtics and you get a 12-point lead in the fourth quarter, you got to close that game out. There's no excuses here. And it just seemed like the moment they took that 101-89 lead, they kind of let up, and then Houston just kept playing through the game. And then the thing is, the difference between maybe last year and the year before and this year is teams are playing through the game. That's a term Doc Rivers used to use, which is they just don't stop playing. They don't let up. They don't give up. Houston was down 12 early fourth quarter to the Celtics, and they still thought we could win this game. And they did. They went on a 13-0 run. They played some trapping defenses to speed the Celtics up. Guys who needed to make shots did not make shots, notably Jaylen and Drew Holiday did not make shots they should have made and they needed to make to burn the defense and to pull away. And then suddenly it's a tie game. And you know what? It's to the point where you can't keep relying on the numbers. And this one's on Joe Mazzula because, one, I don't know why you have Kornet in the game in those two key plays. I think Kornet does enough for this team, but to put him in those two crucial situations, and he got beat on the first one by Sengun for the layup, and then he had a confusion with Jaylen Brown. Probably both of their faults there. Who's going to guard Thompson? Thompson saw Brown coming over and was like, I can go right around this dude. I can shake this dude. That dude's a confident kid, 21 years old, peak athleticism, probably top 5 athlete in the league, and you can probably throw his brother into that too. Mm-hmm. And he had Jaylen on skates and, hit that floater, and it was his night. But I think before those two plays, you just have to look at adjustments and lack thereof. Like, you cannot let Dillon Brooks hit 10 threes. You just can't. His career high is 6. So
yeah, by halftime, damn near.
He had 5 at halftime. And you say to yourself, well, there's two things that were in the Celtics' favor at halftime. Jayson Tatum hadn't scored, yet they were only down 2. And Dillon Brooks hit 5 threes, and there's no way he's going to hit 5 threes in the second half. Well, he did. So eventually, you've got to make adjustments and make it hard on him. And you got to let other people beat you. If Fred VanVleet hits 3 threes in the last 7 minutes to beat you, but you shut down, then you just tip your cap. But you cannot keep thinking, well, he's going to miss eventually. No, these are NBA, these are pros. And as much as you can look at 3-point percentage and, that guy's only shooting 34%. Every NBA player is capable of a heater. We've seen Jaylen hit 10 threes in a game. We've seen Jayson. And those guys, Jaylen especially, is a average 3-point shooter, you would say. We've seen him on heaters. We've seen him hit 5 1/4. So why not Dillon Brooks? Why not who entered as 36%, which is not bad. Like, you've got to start respecting some of these other guys, Kevin Porter and Derrick Jones Jr. and Keegan Murray. Like these guys are putting in the work, and the Celtics are not making adjustments. So I do put this one on Joe. 1, some of the funky lineups. 2, maybe he should have had Porzingis and maybe another player in the game besides Kornet. To in those last 2 possessions, but you can't let Dillon Brooks hit. It's his night, and when are you going to just realize that and change your defense as opposed to being like, well, eventually water's going to reach its level and he's going to miss. It's going to be the next game because I guarantee you the next game he won't hit 5.
Yeah, because I think they play at Atlanta, and I would be shocked if he makes 3.
And it's a Celtic thing. I wrote in the club today, it's a you thing. Like, It's because they're playing you, why these guys are going off, and maybe the defensive situations where you're trying to now protect the paint so much you're leaving threes open. But you cannot let two guys who average a combined 26 points a game go for 69. That's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Amin Thompson's a good player, but he was getting whatever he wanted. And it's like, okay, shade another defender, maybe foul his ass kind of hard, like do something to deter him from getting to the rack. And then with Brooks, chase him off the three. If he hits a mid-range, if he goes and hits a mid-range 16, okay, you got it, Dylan. But the threes, it was his night. And it's like it's stubbornness, it's arrogance, and sometimes you just have to say it's this dude's night. And we've been talking about this for years. Luka, who shoots 32% a couple years ago, hit like 7 threes in the first half. It's like, Joe, like, when are you going to respond to Luka? Yes, he's not a historically good three-point shooter. Yes, he's not had a good season. Yes, it is his night. Like, these dudes work on that, and everybody's capable of a heater. So the defense needs to adjust. So I was more disappointed in that as opposed to the last two plays. You let two dudes who got in your ass all 3 quarters do it again in the fourth without much adjustments. Yes, you shut down Van Vliet. You shut down Jalen Green and Alfred Sengun. Good job. They combined for 30 points, but you still lost the damn game because two dudes went for 69. And it's one thing if a guy's just going and he's just killing every kind of defense. If he's Kobe or somebody, like, hey, man, we threw everybody on him. But there's another thing to make adjustments. 2 defenders, shading, doing something to throw him off, turn him into a playmaker, something, as opposed to, no, go ahead and keep shooting, Dylan. You'll miss. No, he wasn't. It was his night. I mean, I don't know what name. It's hard-headedness. Our mamas, you don't think fat meat is greasy. I mean, like, when do you think it's greasy? Like, when does this happen?
Where the hell did that come from?
You know that saying, Sherrod, so don't act like you don't.
So I can't even say Southern. You're not from the South.
You don't think fat meat is greasy. Like, you don't think that this dude is going to beat you. So you just keep trying him. What happened against Philadelphia? Caleb Martin. Hey, Caleb, keep shooting. Hey.
That meat was greasy in that game, boy.
What's the worst that can happen? You lose the game. I hate to go Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. You don't play to shut down certain defender or certain offensive players and then let others get in your ass. You lost. It was an L. Nice job defensively against their top 3. Exactly, Kwani. Nice job defensively against their top 3 scores. Their 4th and 5th scores put it on you. So when do you realize that some nights it's just we've got to switch? Now, if a guy has a hot quarter, but then he cools off, okay. But when did you think to guard Brooks? When he hit his 7th? Like, when did you think you might need to change defenses against Amin Thompson? When he had 25?
Amen.
Like, it's to the point, it's their night. Do real. Something.
You need to say your prayers.
I just said amen.
Amen.
Hey,
all right.
Well, God willing. Amen. Put it on. Amen. Put it on him.
For the amen.
Amen. It's hard to stop amen when amen is rocking move.
He put him in a trance.
He got backup that's a little different than most people when your name is amen.
Right. Heavenly backup.
But Gary, to your point, Gary, here's the adjustment. How about contesting the shot? I mean, forget about X's and O's. Forget about sitting in the huddle and scribbling a little whatever on the clipboard. How about just actually putting a hand up when a guy is taking a shot? Because this is the thing that people, I think, know this, but they probably don't think about. When you look at what a guy is shooting percentage-wise from three-point range, it's usually the bulk of those shots are contested. So when you are looking at them shooting and they're shooting uncontested, I think it's fair to say they're probably going to shoot a little bit better. And when you get as many good looks as they got, Dylan Brooks specifically from three-point range, his numbers are going to be pretty damn nice that night. because you're giving him literally what he's been doing in practice. When you shoot in practice, and we see this happen all the time, they go around the cycle, shoot wide open threes. And you get a rhythm when you're wide open. It's easy to get into a flow of rhythm when you've got no one who is in your way, or at least trying to pretend to be in your way. So it is hard-headedness, but at some point as a player, you got to just basically say, look, I know what we're supposed to be doing, but shit, I'm getting tired of letting this dude kick my ass. And he ain't even nice like that. Mm-hmm. You know, and the thing about it, and he's popping smack the entire time.
Right.
He came into your crib, talking to your fans, talking to the broadcast, talking to players, and he's just killing you. And it's not even like he's doing real nice work. He's just taking open shots.
He's doing better, yeah.
And then Thompson, after the game, is constantly saying they can't bleep with me. They can't bleep with me. Like, I'm not saying it's the NBA and dudes talk mess, but it's sort of like knock somebody on their ass.
Mm-hmm. Which is what Houston was doing early on.
Somebody hard. Like, make sure Amin Thompson, when next time he wants to get into the paint, have him think about it. We can't have Luke Cornett when he gets dunked on by in what's the guy's Dallas, Quentin Grimes, patting him on the butt and saying nice play.
That bothered me.
Yeah.
Like, no, man, you got crammed on. Like, you're going to be on Sports Center.
I mean, it's supposed to be the other way around. Like, if you dunk on somebody, pat him on the back, just nice try, good try, good effort.
Athletic play. Quentin, no. Be mad about it. I'm not saying these dudes don't play mad, but there's got to be an enforcer. There's got to be somebody, maybe, no offense, like maybe you give K to some of those men. I don't know. And I like Luke, but it's just like this team is too nice. And you letting, and I know Dylan loves to talk. He's chirping and all that, but you do something to shut him up.
You know what, Gary, though? And I pointed this out earlier, and as I'm listening to you talk, it only reinforces in my mind that this is what has to happen. You need your full complement of players, because there's a part of me that believes that Al Horford was not going to be having this. That Dylan doing all that talking and them getting Al at some point, he may not give you a hard foul, but he going to show some resistance around that paint. He's not going to let you have your way all night long if he physically can help it, which more nights than not, he can. And again, this team is so built in a way that they cannot win at the highest of levels if they don't have all their pieces together. And I think there's a part of them that believes that no matter who we got healthy, we're going to find a way to win because we the defending champs, and we did it last year.
Right. Honestly, they were up 12 in the fourth. They got to close that game out. But what happened is, one, they stopped scoring because Ime, who knows the Celtics better than themselves damn near, said, I'm going to put the pressure on Jaylen and Drew to beat us. We ain't letting Tatum go nuts. Mm-hmm. Tatum had 2 shots in the fourth quarter, 4 points because they kept trapping him. He made the right play. Jaylen and Drew combined for 2 for 11 in the fourth quarter. If they hit 1 or 2 more shots, the Celtics win. It's just that close. But defensively, you got to make some adjustments. You can't let the dudes who got in you the first 3 quarters do it again in the fourth. You saw what Ime did. This is what I pointed out. Jayson Tatum went scoreless at halftime. He had 15 in the third. Do you think Ime was like, no, I'm going to let Jayson go for 15 in the fourth? He's like, no. He showed me enough. Jason's capable of going for – he's capable of scoring 30 in the second half. So let's put the pressure on Jaylen. Let's make somebody else beat us. Jaylen, who's an all-star, Drew, who's been an all-star. Sometimes you got to go against the grain. You got to say to Jalen Green, who got hit in the head and had a thing over his eye, he's banged up. Okay, Jalen, let's see you hit 5-6 shots in a row. If he does, then Joe can say, listen, Dylan Brooks had 7 threes. I made an adjustment, and the other guy beat us 2. So you put your cap, you walk off the floor and go, it was their night. But to let the same dudes beat your ass as they did the first 3 quarters, as they did in your crib is unacceptable. And then talking mess. Amin Thompson got to the rim anytime he wanted, and he made some acrobatic plays. He got Joe talking about the first quarter, the runouts. Yeah, that was a problem. But it was also a problem, the offensive rebounding. It was also a problem. He got to the rim whatever he wanted, and he was crafty. Like, to me, that takes adjustments. If you adjust to both of those guys and they still do the same thing, nothing you could say.
You don't even need to adjust to both, Gary. If you adjust to one of the two, you probably win this game.
You lost by 2 points. You lost by 2 or 3 made shots or 2 or 3 stops, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And that's the difference in the Celtics being 33 or 32 and 15 and probably 38 and 9, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. Like 6-7 games of like execution down the stretch. Mm-hmm. And if they're 38 and 9, no one's saying a word about what's wrong with the Celtics. But these fourth quarter breakdowns, the lack of adjustments, the dudes getting in their ass from the 3-point line, especially guys just having open looks. If you guys both have seen, like, you guys have seen warm-ups, you see dudes out there who aren't 3-point shooters practicing hitting 7, 8 in a row. They take those shots every day. Now, do they take them in the game? Are they going to be as good as a game? No. But there's nights where they will be. We've seen it. We've seen Marcus Smart hit 12 in a game. Do Celtics fans, y'all remember that? Marcus hit 12 threes in a game against Phoenix. They lost the game, but I think 12 or 11. Sorry, I think it would have been 11. Everybody ripped Marcus for his shooting. That night, he hit 11. It's possible. Like, we've seen dudes go for 50 in a game. That be like, who? That dude went for Andre Miller went for 52 in a game. Like, sometimes it is your night. And Joe's got to pivot more away from letting water reach its level. And, he's the stat sheet here says he's 36%, so he's going to level off. Like, no, because it's like, that's why I learned in baseball. Sometimes you got to manage with your gut and not manage with the numbers. The lefty, righty. Oh, this guy's hitting 212. We'll throw the reliever in that he's, like, it gets his sometimes you got to manage with your gut. And Joe's got to coach sometimes more with, like, his feel other than, because I know for him it's a battle of the wills. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if he changes his philosophy, that means he's giving up something. And it's like, no, Joel, you're not giving up. You're just adjusting because it's a Boston problem. If you look at some of these guys, we can look how many threes Caleb Martin has hit since Christmas, and I bet you it ain't that damn many.
Mm-hmm. Let's get back to Joe Mazzula, though. You wrote in the Globe, obviously the headline is Joe Mazzula taking accountability. There's a quote, "Our guys played great for 47 minutes and 30 seconds. I didn't help them close it at the end. I have to be better." And to your point, how much of this loss do you put on him, especially when you talk about their struggles late in the game? How much do you give him in regards to the accountability that he even took for that loss?
Go ahead, Sherrod.
Well, here's the thing. I think a decent amount of the blame should go to Joe. One, because he's owned it, but I would disagree with him on the fact that I think he owes them a little bit more than just the last 30 seconds. I think the blame pie should be a little bit bigger slice than that last damn 30 seconds of the game. I think Joe, to Gary's point, I think he has to really tap into and lean into his feel for the game. Joe has a great feel for the game. And sometimes I think he gets caught up in the actual data, statistics, the analytics of the game, and not what his gut is telling him. His gut was probably telling him, I need to get Porzingis out there, even though he's got 5 fouls. But it doesn't really do you any good to have him ready to go in overtime if you can't get to overtime. You can't get the defensive stop you need to get there. Yeah. And say what you want about Kristaps Porzingis, but in terms of interior defense and things of that nature, he's one of, if not your best interior presence defensively. And I think, again, this is just my gut tells me that if you have him in the game at the very end instead of Kornet, him and Jaylen probably don't make that type of miscommunication because Porzingis has been in those situations. He knows what it's like to be on the floor when there's very little time left and you need to come up with a big play defensively. Cornette, it used to be in that situation because when you're playing with Al Horford, when you're playing with Porzingis, when you're playing with, if they go small and have like Tatum at the floor and things like that, he's not required to be on the floor in those moments. And so for him, there was definitely a certain newness of this position that he was asked to be in. And that newness is in part because of Joe Mazzula. I like the idea that Joe is trying to get guys opportunities to play and expand their experience and the roles that they have. But you got to be smart about that. I mean, to me, at that point, it ain't about getting, experience. It's about winning that damn game. And Porzingis clearly would have given you a better shot at getting that stop you needed. And you know what? If he commits a foul and he fouls out and Thompson goes to the line, so be it. You live with that because you put on the floor the best group that you had in that situation, and that group didn't get it done. But when you have Cornette out there, you create this vacuum for woulda, coulda, shoulda folks. And it's easy to point to that moment and just say, why did Joe Mazzula make that call? So, yeah, the last 30 seconds was not exactly the Joe Mazzula highlight reel. Mm-hmm. But your blame pie is a little bit bigger than that because of some of the rotations, lineups, and decisions you made that were going on before that. So, yeah. And when you look at just the run of sorts they've been on where they've basically been a 500-esque team for a few weeks now, again, a lot of that has to do with Joe Mazzula not quite finding the right buttons to push. And so, yeah, players have not performed at the level that they're capable of. We get that. But part of that has to do with the fact that they haven't necessarily been put in the best position to be the best version of themselves in these games.
Yeah, I put it mostly on Mazzulla, and I just think it's not something he's not doing. I just think he's trying. He's really putting a lot of confidence in his players, and he's trying to empower them to be good down the stretch. And sometimes it's going to cost you games. Now, will this benefit them down the road when you put guys like Peterson and Springer in the games? And will they? And I think for a guy like Springer, it will help him tremendously in terms of playing clutch minutes. But I just think there was a little too much Luke out there in terms of, especially down the stretch, and afraid to lose Porzingis. And then that challenge where he lost a timeout. So he thought that, it was a play where Drew Holiday touched I can't remember if it was Thompson.
It was a drive to the basket, yeah.
Yeah, and it was proven that it was contact before.
Yeah.
And it was called a foul, and you lost a timeout. So now you only had one timeout, and then even when Amin Thompson scored, you had 0.7 left. Like, you could have, if you had a timeout, call timeout, advance it, and at least get a quality shot off with a second. You could have, you could have, as opposed to, Peyton Pritchard heave. So it was some mismanaging there. I said that was a big challenge that they lost. And Joe said he thought the contact that Holiday made was marginal, and they were going to rule it that. They didn't. So it was just a lot of little things. Joe's a great coach. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing against him as a coach. I just think this season you are just seeing more and more role players put it on them. And it's getting to the point that you've got to adjust. Because I look at DeJounte Murray, who, when he hit 6 threes, which was a season high against the Celtics, in 6 games since then, he's hit 13. Like, it's a you problem. Like, it's a situation where guys are getting up to play the Celtics. I remember someone told me years ago when the Celtics were struggling, guys used to, when it was the Garnett and Allen and Pierce era, they knew they were going to get their ass whooped. So they partied in Boston the night before. They knew we about to take an L. Now teams know that they can win at the Garden. They know that the Celtics are beatable, and they get up for them. So they get their rest. They are not daunted by the Garden. They love the atmosphere. So guys want to play well in Boston. And the Celtics have to understand that they're the defending champs, and they're taking best shots. Like, we just seen so many guys. Amir Coffey going for 20-plus points last week. Gabe Vincent, who's been terrible for the Lakers, hits 4 threes in the first, or like the first three, midway through the third quarter, season high 4 threes. And you're like, this is Miami Gabe Vincent. And he's like, it's just to the point, it's happened too often to think that it's just happenstance. Mm-hmm. It's you. So you've got to adjust. If you want to get the number 2 seed, because now the Knicks are 1 game behind the Celtics. Okay, the Knicks are nipping at their heels. You've got to start making some defensive adjustments, and you've got to notice when somebody is hot. And you cannot just continue to let them, like Sherrod said, take open threes and have a pop-a shot contest and then thinking you're going to win. Because 1 or 2 more defensive stops and the Celtics win that game. But that's the difference between winning and losing.
Yeah, facts. That greasy meat, boy, I tell you, it's something else.
Don't think fat meat is greasy.
Oh,
greasy, excuse me.
Before we go any further, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. First off, we're going to talk about Prizepicks, which is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prizepicks has more daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prizepicks, which is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. And as you can look at the backdrop behind me, there's a player who played for the team that is in the big game. And the big game is almost here, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with Prizepicks, which is the best place to win cash while watching the big game. Prizepicks is also giving away a free pick for the big game, where one of the starting quarterbacks will only need to throw 1 yard to win if you're correct on that. And get at least 1 more stat protection, you can win real cash. So check out that promo tab to really tail any of our super sweat milli winners, big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. And again, how do you get in? Now, this is what you got to do. You got to sign up today and get a $50 instant. You get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And again, Prizepicks is the best way to win real money this in basketball season, as well as, in the big game. And again, this is what you got to do. You download the app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game. And for those of you who are thinking about possibly attending, the big game, Gametime is where you want to go and find great ticket prices for all types of sporting events like the big game, as well as concerts and things of that nature. When I'm thinking about going to an event like that, I always look into Gametime first and foremost. And there's so many cool things about Gametime. But for me, the thing that I really love most about them is just the all-in pricing. It shows you the total price before you get to checkout, and you get a panoramic view of the seats that you're interested in sitting in before you get to the checkout, before you have to actually pay, and that is a really cool thing. And all you have to do is just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's download the app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off. Terms apply. What time is it? Game time. 1A. What you got?
Another good nickname for the big game, Superb Owl. Assuming you said the big game for legal reasons.
Yeah, Kwani.
Did you not process? Gary, you get it.
Yeah, I thought Sherrod was talking about a Milli Vanilli concert. Like he said Milli Vanilli. I was like, are they back together? Like, are they on tour?
Gary.
Like,
Gary,
Gary
was ready to go to Gametime and find that concert because my group is back together.
Yeah, I was like, is that true? Are they back? Yeah, like Sherrod was like, I mean, he said Milli Vanilli. I was like, wow.
I don't think that's what he meant.
Okay, my bad.
Keep the train moving, Kwani.
Our ears perked up.
Gary just had that Milli Vanilli flashback, and he's feeling himself. So,
oh my God. All right, we'll move on from Joe Mazzula. He's got enough slack. We'll talk about Jayson Tatum next.
Yeah.
His numbers this season look strong, but what do you both think he needs to do to get this team back on track? That's what we need to do right now. Get on track.
Oh boy, talk about your boy, Gary.
Everyone's your boy. Like, who isn't your boy?
Everybody's my boy. I know. Honestly, I think he's doing fine. You know, the one thing I'm seeing from Jayson, though, that's concerning me is he's still trying to get his game started by shooting threes. Like, I just think he's trying to go outside in as opposed to inside out. What I mean by that is you start a strong scoring night from getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line, get some early easy buckets or early, free throws, get yourself 7, 8, 10 points, and then the threes, and then the defense kind of lightens up because they don't want to, they're guarding the drive. Jayson is still trying to get himself going from three. So he's taking his first 8 or 9 shots. He's taking 7 threes, and he's making 1 or 2 of them. So that's not a good average. If he was hitting those, I would say, hey, if that gets you going and you're hot, then you know what? Go for it. But to me, I think he's still trying to press. His 3-point percentage now is down to 35%, which is not great. It's below his career average. Obviously, he got off to a really hot start from 3, but it just isn't happening for him from the 3-point line, just like a lot of guys. So he's not the only one. But Jayson's got to me, he's shooting 30% from 3 this month. He started out 37% in October, a little short sample size there, 38% in November, 35% in December, and now 30% in January. He's 41 for 134. And, he's taken 134 threes. The month's almost over. To me, Jayson needs to get himself, and he's only averaging 24 points. His scoring average and his rebounds has also gone down this month. So, he's scuffling a little bit. So I think, and he's shooting 42% from the field. So to me, start out inside, get to the paint, get to the free throw line, then that 3 will open up. I still think he's pressing from 3, still trying to get himself started from there. And obviously, when he's a good 3-point shooter, the Celtics it's a real weapon. But I'm just looking at the numbers, and he's not had a good January. And it could be fatigue, it could be injuries. I know he's questionable for the game tomorrow against Chicago.
Dry January, you would say?
Oh God. Yeah.
One of my jokes are gonna work today.
Sure, Kwani. Oh,
Keep
boy.
shooting, Kwani.
Yeah.
Keep shooting.
You ain't exactly Dylan Brooks here.
Oh my God.
Damn.
Dylan would have nailed that one.
Wow.
Dylan would have nailed that one. Ben told you about it. So I'm thinking Jayson needs to get back to the basics. The 3 is always going to be there, Jayson. Quit taking, if your first 10 shots, 7 of them don't have to be threes, especially when they're not going down. 30% this month, that's not a good average. That's lowering his overall shooting percentage, 42%. We all know he's way better than that offensively. His offensive rating was 128 in October, 118 in November, 119 last month. This month, it's 110. So he's dipping, and I think it's a little bit of fatigue, but it's also he's pressing, trying to get that 3 ball back, and I think he's got to take him more in the flow of the game.
I think a lot of it, Gary, is fatigue, because when you're a scorer and you are not as physically invested as you normally are, what's the path of least resistance? Shooting threes. You don't need to put forth as much effort to do that as you do beating guys off the dribble and trying to attack the rim. So I think a lot of his problem is fatigue, and that's why this All-Star break cannot get here soon enough. I think he, more than anyone else on this team, is going to benefit because he's the one guy that has had a high level of durability this entire season, and frankly, throughout his career. He's very durable. And so, all those bumps and bruises and getting banged around and fouled when it's called and fouled when it's not called, it adds up. And I think his body is telling him, like, dude, we hurting, bro. we need a little bit of rest. And I think Tatum is trying to figure out how to still be impactful while still listening to what his body is telling him. And I think part of that is him just taking the path of least resistance and shooting more threes when he should really be looking to attack more.
Well, the other half of the Celtics dynamic duo, Jaylen Brown, he is most likely going to be All-Star reserve this season. But what can he also do to improve upon for himself, but also for Boston being able to, like you said, hopefully secure that 1 seed or at least just stay in the top of the East?
I think there's the to me, cookies on the bottom shelf stuff like handle the ball better, cut down on your turnovers. But I think with Jaylen, I think more than anything, he needs to develop a better rhythm to his play. Like, he seems to be very hot and cold in terms of his scoring, in terms of his defense, in terms of his impact. And I think part of that is because Joe Mazzula has tried lots of different combinations, and him and Tatum have kind of getting yanked in lots of different directions. But so for me, he needs to develop a more consistent flow to his game to where we're not seeing as many peaks and valleys in his play, but we're just kind of seeing him just settle in and be a guy that at the end of the night, has 24, 25 points, 4 or 5 rebounds, 4 or 5 assists, and plays good defense. And those numbers should come about with him making contributions in all 4 quarters as opposed to 1 or 2. I think consistency and leveling out to where he's not, again, not so many peaks and valleys. I think that's the way that he can help this team most going forward.
Yeah, more defensive consistency, less lapses, and, just like you said, start fast and also finish fast. And you know what? And I'm going to say the same thing. Jaylen's got to start hitting more threes. He's got to start being better from the three-point line. Couple of those open looks last night would have really made a difference in that game. I think there was one play they were up 1. I'm thinking they're up 1. Jaylen had a corner 3, missed it. Then I think our friend Dylan Brooks came back, put Houston up by 2 with a 3 ball, and it was just that kind of just the different these little things. It's nothing major. It's just like knocking down those shots, knocking down those key buckets. I was impressed with Jaylen hitting both free throws last night in that clutch moment. 11 seconds left, all the pressure on to tie the game. He's been in a free throw slump this season. Not been good from the line. He came through and knocked both of those down, so that's an encouraging sign for him. But to me, he's got to be more dependable from the 3-point line, and I don't know if that's mechanical, if that's just taking fewer, taking more in certain spots, getting a pattern where he likes places that he likes to take them, and maybe other places, okay, I'm going to pass this one up. This ain't my spot. Maybe be a little bit more selective, but he's got to knock down those shots. When him and Tatum are both knocking down those threes, when they take them, they're a very dangerous team. And I think defensively, he's got to be more aware, not, falls late that, and I'm not – it's not all his fault that with the Thompson play, there was some miscommunication, but there's a time that maybe he says, hey, man, I'm taking Thompson, and I'm not switching. Like, we're not doing that last minute. We've got to be on the same page in the split-second stuff that happened last night. Like, I'm taking Thompson, and damn it, I'm not going to switch if Sengun tries to screen me. Like, I'm going to go through the screen, or I'm going to get around the screen. He's not getting away from me, as opposed to I'm going to get him at the last minute. Then you're on skates. And if you saw the play, he ran up on Thompson. Thompson dribbled. Then Jaylen backed up too much and gave him too much space because he respected his speed too much. Boom, hits a 10-footer, game over. So it's just little things with Jaylen. And we all see it. The scouting report, strip him. Guys are doing too much still, too much reaching out and just grabbing the ball from him. That's the thing. He likes to show you the ball. He's not a great ball handler. He can be at times, but he's not great. Ball pressure is not his friend. And if you see the ball, just go out there and grab it, knock it away, get a jump ball, or even just knock his dribble and knock his rhythm off. So to me, it's just fine-tuning some of those parts of the game that he needs to, and he'll be fine.
Well, like you said, the All-Star break couldn't come soon enough for the Celtics. We'll see how they fare out in their next few games until we meet again. For Sherrod Blakely, Gary Washburn, any final words? I think we're good. I just wanted to make sure I gave you final words. Actually, no, we're not giving you final words. I'm Kwani Lunis. Thank you for watching or listening to this week's episode, and we'll be back next week without Sherrod. I'm kidding. Just kidding. Thank you.
Yay.